The use of artificial intelligence, machine learning, natural language processing, robotics, automation seems to be at the heart of the Ocado strategy. What is it that you personally seek to achieve for Ocado?
Well, I think we are on this continual journey, of not just innovation, but of and not just disruption, but actually self-disruption. We obsess about the holes in the cheese, so to speak. We're never happy with what we've done. We just see all the ways to make it better, and I think that's got us to where we are today, and will power, our creativity and our thirst for improvement going forwards. And if you're on that road, you have to be continually looking out at how to future-proof yourselves, how to reinvent yourself into new areas, how to acquire competencies, how to build a network of alliances, whether it be on the research side or with government or with other organizations. And we have to look much further out, if you like, than where the business is currently operating within Ocado technology. And so, that's that journey of self-reinvention. And it's not just about what we're innovating. It's very much about how we innovate, and how we're constantly trying to sort of what I call innovate the innovation factory.
Can you give us some maybe case study examples that you could share with us of how you're using this technology today?
Gosh, it's a massive area for us. I mean, artificial intelligence and to a large extent robotics pervade our end-to-end e-commerce fulfillment and logistics platform. They crop up everywhere. I mean, we use AI and machine learning at the front end to help, if you like, customers shop faster with less friction. I mean, our customers are typically shopping for a 50-item basket, and they're shopping sometimes more than once a week. And we need them to be able to complete that journey in just a few minutes. I mean, it would be wonderful if people jumped out of bed in the morning and said, woohoo, today is my online grocery shopping day. But I think most customers don't, maybe some do. And therefore, we're trying to create this broadband of grocery that gets groceries to their kitchen tables without them almost having to think about it. And that's the journey we're on there. But we also use it to help optimize our supply chain and predict, the demand for the 50,000 different items we're going to sell. We use it extensively in our warehouses, whether it be controlling and optimizing the swarms of thousands of robots in our newest warehouses, whether it be managing the thousands of crates moving around 30 kilometers of conveyor in our existing warehouses, whether it be optimizing the layout of those warehouses as the demand for different goods changes with seasonality, with promotions, with celebrity chef recipes or whatever it may be. And then at the far end, or the downstream end on the last mile, it's about optimizing the delivery routes that we drive, but also providing oversight across the whole process, acting like the third gyro, if you like, in an aircraft that's kind of believing nobody, and it's just sitting there going, well, actually, that system there looks like it's not telling the truth. I think we should have a look at that. And that's so it's a very pervasive set of technologies, and it's two technologies out of really a set of five, because we also make a lot of use of the Internet of Things, of cloud, and of big data, and it's the synergy of those and the intersection of those that really powers our business.
Can you tell us a little bit about the Ocado Smart Platform?
Sure. So this is our latest, if you like, exciting journey. We started this journey really back in 2013, where we signed our first B2B customer, which was Morrison's, to help them move their grocery business online as a bricks and mortar retailer. And we got them online in early 2014. And at that point, I gathered everybody in Ocado Technology into a hotel room, and I said, fantastic job getting Morrison's live 11 minutes early. And now, the next challenge is we're going to rewrite the whole thing. And that's the journey we've been on. And so we've been rewriting that end-to-end e-commerce fulfillment and logistics platform to run in the cloud from scratch, to design it as a platform that we could make available to multiple bricks and mortar retailers around the world, to prepare for creating this kind of sticky ecosystem, of a platform that lots of companies could connect to. And it comes in two halves. It's the software that I've just described, and then it's this swarm robotics technology for building our automated warehouses, the first of which we put live in Andover at the end of 2016, and that's a complete game changer, and it's a vital ingredient of the platform because of the way it scales, the way it allows you to start small and grow big in a new territory where maybe online grocery is in its early stages. And the sum of those two halves, so to speak, is the Ocado Smart Platform, and now we're in the process of growing a whole new solutions part of the business whose job it is to sell and support and make a success for our B2B customers of that platform. And we've obviously been signing a number of very high-profile deals around the world.
We talked a little bit about constantly reinventing yourselves and even disrupting yourselves. You've been quoted actually as saying, and I'm going to read, "It's not enough to just be innovative. Disruption is not an endpoint. It's a permanent state of turbulent flux." So it would be great if you could explain to us a little bit about how you do that. How do you continuously disrupt yourselves and make sure you're constantly staying in front of the pack?
Okay. Well, it's a big topic for us. One way we do it is we have distinct kind of innovation streams. A huge amount of our innovation for our existing UK retail businesses, and indeed for the platform, is just business as usual for us, including quite a lot of areas which many companies would consider R&D, because as a disruptor, that is what we do. I suppose what I'm really about to describe is like a river network where innovation flows down the river, and these are the sort of the engineering activities that are further downriver, drawing upon the kind of the more researchy, radical innovation that happens upstream. And as we move upstream, you then get to our research departments who are focused on things like robotics, some of the AI work, other kinds of experiments, advanced simulation techniques, because we model everything that we do in Ocado that we can. We have extraordinary simulations of our warehouses that we use to test algorithms and put them through their paces, so to speak, long before we build them. And that's now a core competence of ours. And then after moving upstream again, you get to our kind of 10X or advanced research department. And that's focused very much on this self-disruption, on looking for game-changing opportunities which require you to place bets which perhaps in many cases the business would never place.
So you've mentioned that you do a lot of these in-house developments, etc. What's your view about working with third parties? So other technology firms, perhaps some startups, and some really interesting startups maybe that we're seeing out there. What's your view on that?
So we've always been fiercely independent and self-sufficient in Ocado. I mean, our raison d'etre is to build everything ourselves, pretty much. We take that to almost sort of evangelical lengths sometimes, including sometimes building things that probably, with the benefit of hindsight, maybe we no longer should, and we're working on that. But it stood us in very good stead. It's got us to where we are. It's made us incredibly self-sufficient. It's put us in control of our destiny. It means we own all the intellectual property of what we've built, and it means that we can. We're not hitting roadblocks in terms of trying to improve a particular part of that end-to-end platform, and also it means we can collect the data across the whole platform, which is particularly important now in terms of that being the food of the machine learning that we're increasingly building. So we're going to keep doing that, but we do work with some partners, and we have some very strategic relationships with other technology companies, whether it be Google and AWS and Salesforce and Apple and Panasonic and others. And what characterizes those relationships is, I like to think they're very much two-way. What they get from us is an opportunity to test their technologies in some quite unusual ways because of the number of use cases that occur across that end-to-end platform. We are very technically strong, and that means I would like to think that we give good feedback, and we are kind of critical in our assessment, but in a positive way, as in helping them, improve and hopefully helping them test those products in ways that maybe some other customers wouldn't, yet. And in return, we get early access to technology, we get to have some influence over the roadmaps, and it's like all relationships, they work best when they are two-way. And a good example of that is cloud, where we are using both public cloud and private cloud, and we benefit from those amazing cloud-based services, many of which you couldn't replicate on-premise, but other ones which, particularly on the AI side, they have completely disrupted access to AI. So as well as all the stuff that we build in-house with specialist engineers and people with PhDs in machine learning and so forth, we have to do a lot of that, but we really want to infect, if you like, all of our engineering teams with being able to use cloud-based machine learning and AI services for all the other applications which don't necessarily need that kind of build-it-yourself type approach. And that's a journey that we are on, if you like, from having been mobile first and then cloud first for a number of years now. Our next bit is to become truly AI first.
Great. And what about startups? You didn't mention startups.
Startups.
I think we're open to the possibility of working with startups. I have to say, to date, we haven't. That's not because we've never talked to them. We do. But, we are building a platform, not only for ourselves, but obviously this Ocado Smart platform for other B2B businesses. And therefore, owning the intellectual property is key. What we don't really want to end up with is a patchwork of licensing arrangements. So I'll definitely not say never, but to date, it's certainly not been a key part of our strategy at all.
When we spoke earlier, you mentioned that the technology is difficult, but it's not as difficult as the people side. Mm-hmm. Can you elaborate a little bit on what you mean by that?
Well, yeah, I mean, we are on a very challenging, technical journey in terms of the things we're building and the experiments we're running. But, what we're really also doing is evolving if you like, an innovation pipeline or factory in terms of how we do that disruption and self-disruption in a sort of scalable and sustainable way. And that is an art form, in a sense, not a science, however many articles people may write about it. And what works for your particular culture and business and mission, is something you have to find for yourself. You can go out there into the world and try and steal ideas from other companies who do it well, but you will often find that those are not transferable. And so you really do have to roll your own. You have to find what works for you. And of course, also in the process, hopefully create some unique ways of doing it that are particular to you. And I think that is definitely the parallel journey that we are on. And what makes it challenging is people, obviously. People are an amazing resource, but at the same time, you have to find ways to lead them, to inspire them, to, where appropriate, give them the autonomy to get out of their way, to let them do amazing things, and really just try and help them believe that they can do things that perhaps they never believed they could do. And so what you're constantly trying to do is look for new ways of working, new ways to organize yourself. So I often describe it as, or we often describe it as innovating our innovation factory, which is the kind of the first or the second derivative, if you like, in the mathematical sense of what we're on. It's not just how fast can we innovate, but how can we get better at innovating, or even get better at getting better, if you like. And that's, that's really, really important if you're to stay disruptive. You can't afford to rest on your laurels. You can't afford to be complacent about the fact that you're good enough. At the heart of all this, as well as people, it's around the culture. It's this combination of culture, people, and vision that makes the magic happen. And we have lots of ways of trying to skin the innovational cat, so to speak. And you need a whole basket of different ways to do innovation, not just one. We do a lot of things that other companies do, but to take an example of something that is perhaps newer, we've been doing for a short period of time, it's around what we do in our sort of 10x department is try to do sort of R&D as a service. So my analogy for this would be a military one of creating sort of special forces teams that are quite self-sufficient, multidisciplinary, and which have different rules of engagement. So they can kind of go behind enemy lines and blow things up, which in this analogy means they can actually do things with production systems in order to get the data they need and to do the experiments they need. And that's obviously challenging and to a certain extent risky, but there is no perfectly safe way to do disruptive innovation. You've got to be prepared to take risk, and I think that's one of the really important things that we, in terms of our culture at Ocado, is that we are sort of quirky, a little bit unconventional. We're risk embracing, and that's absolutely got us to where we are today in terms of being the best in the world at online grocery. And we're definitely not going to stop doing that. And that's where having our own retail businesses is so important, because it allows us to take a level of risk, if you like, for ourselves that obviously we wouldn't want to take in our platform business, and then to take what we've learnt there and build it, into our platform business. And so that's what's so unusual about being this duality of a technology business and a retail business, and how they feed off each other, so to speak.
Fantastic. Great. Thank you very much. I think that's all we've got time for today. So thank you so much, Paul. Really appreciate your time and hearing
Pleasure. About
your experiences, your expertise. I think it's really, really insightful.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.